everyone. Welcome to the August 20th, 2025 meeting of the Conservation 2020 Lands Acquisition and Stewardship Advisory Committee meeting. Thank you all for coming. Our first order of business after being called to order is to note that we have a quorum and we can proceed. And if we could, let's please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks, everyone, very much. Please be seated. Next order of business is our minutes for the July 16th meeting. Those were circulated in advance. Hopefully, everyone's had a chance to look at them. Do we have any comments on the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a motion from Mr. Spring. Do we have a second? Okay, we've got two seconds, one by Mr. Shaw and one by Mr. Cruz. Any discussion? Any opposition? That carries. Thank you very much. Next item is one item that, just to bring everyone up to date for some of the folks that weren't here last month and then also for the public, we had a discussion about how do we look at the competing needs for the Conservation 2020 funds when there's a large, because we've had some fairly large numeric ones, if you will, recently. How do we look at those? How do we view those to ensure that we get our, wrong word, biggest bang for the buck, if you will, when we spend funds to acquire properties that seem worthy of acquisition using those funds? So we tasked the staff to go back and take a look at that and give us some ideas on how do we look at that? I mean, because we need to make sure that we do the most appropriate thing we can with the funds that the taxpayers and the board, through the budgetary process, of course, has entrusted into the program. So let's make sure of that. So Mr. Clemens has something that he has put together for us to look at, and I don't know how long that might take to go through, but we're going to spend a bit of time going through that because this is an important item, and so it's a follow-up to what we talked about last month. So, Mr. Clemens, please.
I think everybody received a handout. We'll start where it says current status of Conservation 2020. Currently, we have about $19 million in the fund. There are 21 properties nominated. We have 9 active acquisitions, 9 pending, and 3 new nominations that haven't run the full way through the committee yet. The estimated cost of all of these properties is about $47.5 million. So we have about a $28.5 million shortfall if we were to acquire all the properties at the estimated prices. So county staff is looking to go forward with this and take this tier system to the board to set up the priority of these lots so that we purchase the better lots first, and as parcels are nominated, if a better parcel comes in than what is on the tier 2 as recommended by CLASAC, we would push those up. If we can go to the next slide. What we're recommending for tier 1 parcels, there's 11 properties, 7 of them are in Crew, 3 are on Pine Island, and 1 is in the Buckingham area. Each of these properties is adjacent to an existing preserve and or a county-owned property. The total acreage is 127 acres. We estimated the value of these, or the estimated cost, will be about $4.5 million. And these properties tend to be within, as written up there, county-owned properties or existing preserves. We can go to the next slide, please. Tier 2 properties, there's 7 Tier 2 properties, 1 on Pine Island, 4 in the Buckingham area, 1 in southeast Lee County, and 1 on Sanibel. Total acreage about 313 acres. An interesting part of these is about 278 acres of those 313 of those nominations are former farm fields or pasture and grove fields, meaning they are cleared. They don't have native vegetation on them. And their estimated cost is around $20 million. We have 3 new nominations that haven't been fully evaluated by staff yet to bring forward, with the exception of one that's on crew, which will follow later on tonight. We're estimating the cost of those to be around $22.7 million. So what our proposal would be is that we work through the Tier 1 parcels that we're going to present, and at the end of acquiring or negotiating those parcels, we will have about $14 million. Once we work through those, then we would recommend bringing up the other properties as y'all see them as being, pick the best from the properties that we have available going forward. If in the interims a great parcel comes up, I'll define that a little later by showing a parcel that I think is, rather than trying to write out a definition, show a picture of what that property looks like. We get that. If everybody wants to push it forward, we'll push that recommendation to the board as we proceed through here. If you want to go to the next slide. This slide shows the active acquisitions we have right now. The properties in blue are in the crew, with the exception of the last blue one. It's not in crew in Lee County per se, it's adjacent to the crew boundaries in Collier County. That particular parcel is on the county line. And in that particular parcel, we do have a contract that we're holding on that, and we'll discuss that later as well. The last parcel of those 9 is on Pine Island, and it is a parcel that falls into that category of properties that are either previously farmed or have grove operations on them. We'll go to the next slide. I think these went out of order, Renee.
This is the active acquisition list, it's page 2.
I'm looking at, if you'll go back, please.
I can change.
Okay.
Page you need me to.
Yeah, I was, okay, these are parcels that have been approved by CLASAC, by y'all, but we haven't presented them to the board yet for the board's approval. So that's 9 parcels that are awaiting board approval to proceed with acquisition activities. The 3 parcels that I referenced earlier that are in the process are beneath them, and those new nominations total about 670 acres. On the bottom, we have 2 parcels that we were previously negotiating. We weren't able to come to terms. The reason for that is the property owners wanted substantially more than what the market was showing for those properties. So we are at impasse with those. Now if we go to the next slide. This next slide is showing the parcels that we recommend for Tier 1. And again, those properties in blue are within the crew boundaries in Lee County. Those properties we've been buying since the inception of the project. And then we have parcel 565 and, 656 and 657. Those are both on Pine Island. Those are near existing county conservation properties and adjacent to state conservation property. Parcel 656, or 665 is on Pine Island as well, and it is within a county preserve. It's kind of a infill parcel, not necessarily contiguous to county ownership, but it creates a management problem because it is within the preserve, and we've had access issues in that particular area. And I have maps of all of these coming up so we can speak about them more in depth. And the last parcel, 668, is in the Buckingham area. It's on the Orange River. It fronts on Buckingham Road at the intersection of Cemetery Road. It also is adjacent to the Buckingham Community Center. In that general area on the east side of the bridge, or on the east side of Buckingham Road, the county owns properties as well. We can go to the next slide, please. So this is showing the location of those first parcels we talked about in the Crew area. As you can see, all of those are in environmentally sensitive areas. They tend to be 5 and 10 acre tracts for the most part. And all those properties, there are still some private ownerships in here, but the vast majority is owned by either DEP or South Florida Water Management District. This also falls into an area where we were previously having discussions about the berm that Roland's group is working on, so that when we work on that project, the more of these we own, the less issues we will have as we proceed with his proposed berm project. We go next. This is a picture of the properties on Pine Island that are across from Buttonwood. I think these were approved by CLASAC the last board meeting. If you look at these, they have natural vegetation on them along Stringfellow, and as you flow to the west, it flows into properties that are mangrove, and you go further west, there's state ownership. And again, these are some of the reasons why we were recommending to go forward with these types of properties. If we can go to the next one, please. This is the infill parcel within Pine Island Flatwoods. As you can see, can you go back one? No, yeah. As you can see, that dark green is area that the county owns. Those properties within that preserve area that you see that are privately owned tend to be 5 and 10 acre tracts that have access through a negotiated road that we previously had access issues in here, and that several of the property owners to the west had access over 2 or 3 easements that bifurcated the property as you head towards Stringfellow. So we came to terms and were able to negotiate one access point so that we had controlled access and could better manage the overall preserve. That's why we're recommending to put this one in Tier 1 to avoid future issues as well, and to reduce the number of potential private ownerships in there, which are we have to work around those. So from a management standpoint, the more private that you have in these type of areas, the more potential issues you have with the access, people interfering with the county's operations and so forth. We can go to the next slide. And this shows that that property is heavily vegetated. Next slide, please. And this slide shows the property that's on Buckingham Cemetery. If you can see immediately East of that, the county owns property on the north side of Cemetery Road. The county owns property on the south side that fronts on the Orange River as well. And the Buckingham Community Center is that portion in the northeast part on the west side of Buckingham Road. This parcel 668 is, again, heavily vegetated, and it fronts on the river. And when I said the definition of a good property, I think this is that. You know, it shows it's next to county property. It's on a water body. That helps with the TMDL benefits and some of those other, is it BOMA benefits, Roland?
Based action plan,
So it helps with,
but also flood protection as well, floodplain.
so these are the kind of properties, you know, without writing a definition, I think a picture speaks much louder, and this is what I would use as that definition. So if we could go to the next slide. So before we get to tier 2, anybody have any questions on those tier 1 parcels as to why we're recommending them, or? So I think as we start going forward in tier 2, you'll see a distinctive difference in the properties. So if we go to the next slide. This shows the property that is in the southeast area. It's on Carter Road. It's a former farm or grove operation. It's adjacent to the north boundary of the Corkscrew Sanctuary, but that preserve area is not in Lee County. And can you go to the next slide? I want to see if we have I think we had a closer slide. This shows the rows, and the property immediately adjacent to it to the south is, I believe that's Audubon's property. It's at a minimum in the Corkscrew Preserve area in Collier County, but you can see that's heavily disturbed. If you look at the property surrounding it in Lee County to the north, east, and west, all of those are heavily disturbed. So it's not preserving, you know, native vegetation. Further, if we were to go forward with this property, we would have to have the rows knocked out, and we would put that responsibility on the seller. But it's going to be a parcel that will have to be heavily managed to avoid future exotic encroachment. And it's very expensive to come in. If you want to come in and replant something with native plants, that's a very expensive venture. So in short, we're not really protecting natural vegetation at this state. So that's why I wanted to show some more emphasis on this particular property. Renee, if you can go back to the list.
If I may, if you don't mind, do we know what Collier intends to do with the neighboring property? Is that going to be restored? Is it going to be?
I don't think it's Collier. I think it falls into the Audubon and maybe South Florida Water Management.
Okay, well, regardless, do we know what the intentions there are? I mean, is there?
Reserve is,
I think that's a mitigation bank, Panther Island mitigation bank. Is that
Okay, so does it work well together? I mean, I don't think quality of life stops at the county line, but does it work well together as an outlook on a larger piece?
again, it's farm fields. If you were to use it as mitigation, then maybe it has some.
No, I'm just asking, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm just looking at, here's what I see. But
Sure.
Sawyer, I think what I'm gathering from Robert is this is more of a ranking system, not saying that these tier 2s are not worthy. It's just saying if we had $5 and 28 parcels, where do we spend the $5 the first? I think is
Sure, yeah, absolutely. I'm just curious to know if there's been communication with the adjacent landowners at all. I just wonder.
yeah, I'd say the short answer to that is no.
Okay.
So I wanted to come back and go through the list, but I just wanted to show that parcel as we get started on these tier 2, because that one does have a pending contract. So we would recommend putting that parcel in Tier 2 and not going forward with that contract at this time. Again, the purchase price would be $4.1 million. And if you look up on the chart, we have the expected price and then we have a running total. So if we were to buy all of Tier 1, by the time we get down to Tier 2, we'd have about 14 million. This parcel would be about 1/3 of the remaining dollars that we have for future acquisition. Then we look at parcel 658. That's a parcel on Pine Island that looks very similar to the one we just looked at. The asking price on that is 3.2 million. Then we come down to 660 through 663. Those are contiguous parcels. They tend to be 10 to 30 acre tracts that are contiguous to each other under separate ownerships that equate to about 100 acres. The asking price on that is $8 million. So you can see that's more than half of what that remaining total would be. Then as we come down, the last one in Tier 2 that we're recommending is parcel 666. That's on Sanibel. That was a property that was evaluated last CLASAC meeting. And that parcel is about 35 acres. They want 4.8 million for it. Has about 5 to 7 acres of uplands. The balance will be required to be preserved because of the environmental characteristics of that. In short, to spend almost $5 million on that property, you're only preserving about 5 acres. So bang for the buck there's not a lot of it, I'll put it that way. So in total, those Tier 2 parcels add up to about 113 acres, or 313 acres. And then we're just showing for reference the new nominations. One of those is a crew parcel. One is on Pine Island, and the vast majority of it is farmland. We haven't scored that one yet. And the last one is in the Estero area. We haven't scored that one yet, but I will say that that is a parcel that is broken up into 140 trailer lots, and they're wanting $8.7 million for it. So we'll bring that up as we proceed and get the scoring done to show y'all for evaluation purposes. But if we were to acquire all the properties that have been nominated to date, we're looking at somewhere around $38 million to $43 million. Can you go to the next slide? We'll look at each of these Tier 2 parcels as to what the mapping and the physical characteristics of those look like. And this is the one that we already looked at on Carter Road, but could we slide through that a little quicker? This next one, this is the one on Pine Island. We had forwarded this one, but as you can see, it was grove or row crop. Again, it has very little native vegetation on it. If we can proceed. Next. These are the Buckingham properties. They're actually about a mile east of the property we looked at that was on the river. But as you can see, they're fragment ownerships, and we could spend a lot of time working on those, and if we don't get one, let's say we didn't get 661, that kind of puts the reason for buying this out of play. The other thing is this parcel scored high, but that was more on a technicality. What gave it a larger score is You see the long strip that runs from parcels 660 to 661. That's a 33-foot strip of land that they own that runs down to the river. So technically it gave it scores for having those water benefits, but in general that benefit is minimal. So that's why we're looking to place this one, or these, in tier 2. We can go to the next slide. This parcel is the one that's on Sanibel. They want 4.8 million. If you can zoom in. And do we have I don't know if we have a closer, or if this is the close that we have. But anyhow, as you can see in the south, the upland portion, or the non-wetland portion, tends to be in the southerly portion of this property. And that equates, per information provided to us by the seller, somewhere around 5 to 7 acres. Any development would most likely require some additional mitigation. So that's why we're looking at this bang for the buck. We're not preserving a lot of land at $4.8 million. The next series of maps, I was working with staff in our community development in our GIS, and we were putting together mapping to show conservation lands in Lee County at large. So I wanted to roll that into this conversation as well. This shows all the Conservation 2020 lands that we own in Lee County, and we use the aerial backdrop as opposed to using some of these, I'd call them paper sheets, where you're just looking at a map that doesn't show the roads and points of reference and adjoining property types. And it stands out a little more, I think, as you see where our conservation lands are and what's adjacent to them. The next map is county-owned conservation properties that are not Conservation 2020. Some of those are properties that were acquired before Conservation 2020 started. Some of them are like Port Authority mitigation properties, that large area where the cursor is there. In total, that's 12,600 acres. If we can go to the next map. These are properties that are federally owned. The bulk of those tend to be on Sanibel and along the coastal area. Next one, please. These are state-owned properties. And state-owned would be South Florida Water Management District, Florida DEP, and we also threw in Lamsid. Lamsid has some filter marsh and conservation areas that they own, so I threw them into the state-owned as this category, and we have 56,000 acres there. This next sheet shows conservation lands owned in the incorporated areas, the cities. We have about 780 or 90 acres. We can go to the next map. These are not-for-profit owned properties. The bulk of those are Calusa Land Trust and Ding Darling, or not, go to the SCCF, Sanibel Captiva Conservation. We go to the next map, please. These are privately owned conservation lands. A lot of those fall into CDDs for various developments, or they were required to be placed under conservation as part of their development. And those total about 28,000. we came up with a higher number, but just, I wanted to be on the side of caution and reduced it by 10%. So that's where we came up with that 28,700 acres in case there was some variance along the way. The part of this is codes from the property appraiser's office, and some of these, we went in and actually spot checked the larger ones, but there's so many, this would take a year of staff to go and to prove for certain what these properties were falling under with their code. So if we go to the total map, the map showing total conservation lands, it shows that we have about 142,000 acres of conservation land in Lee County. And that's how these all, when you bring them all together, this is how the map looks. If we can go to the last, this is a table showing those acreages. The total county land area is about 520,000 acres. So that's about 27% of the total county falls under conservation. I want to bring some of this together because if you look even at the area of the county, if you go on Google, you'll get several different calculations, and we ran this again through our community development and GIS, and this number is very supportable. We can go to the very last. So it's kind of a summary of Conservation 2020. The program began in 1996. We've acquired 31,700 acres. We have spent purchasing those properties $407 million. We've acquired 173 properties, created 52 preserves, and on management, we have spent over $70 million. And on the management, that's a continuing cost. So we've utilized or spent about $500 million in Lee County on conservation properties, just on Conservation 2020 alone. So I'll leave it at that if you want to.
Thank you, Mr. Clemens. That's a lot of information. I have to say these maps are pretty impressive. Especially this last one here. That's really something to see when you put it all together as an overlay. Questions or thoughts for Mr. Clemens from the committee? Mr. Spring.
Have we, again, I've been on long enough to should remember this, have we ever nominated something and then yanked it? Do you remember, any of us?
I would say no, not to my knowledge.
Nominated and then what?
Yeah, it was a question, we couldn't hear
Have
it.
we ever nominated anything and pulled it after we've nominated it because it doesn't make sense?
Because of the purchase. Well, it's not, I would say it financially, it's not making sense at this time from staff's perspective. But the answer to your question is no, not to my knowledge have we got a contract and forwarded it. And
Always time for a first.
Well, I mean, even a nomination though, Robert, like, again, after doing some more research at the last, again, looking at the Sandoval property, at the price point, it doesn't make any sense. And we've denied things on price many, many times over the years we have. And that's just one example, like some of the other ones too as well. That's why I was asking that question. And then my next question, and I know we take this into account, we'll just say, you guys, Roland, you guys know, if we take, what does it take to take an acre of farmland back to conservation-ready land? Do we know? Do we actually have a figure for that?
I don't do that. I mean, it depends how much disturbance would be on it.
Well, we'll just say this, look at, you know, you understand where I'm going with this, so.
it's a tremendous amount of money.
Yeah.
If you have a development and you get a conservation easement on that property and get mitigation credits on it through, I think is FDEP and South Florida Water Management District, you have to maintain that property for 5 years to make sure those plantings that you put in for mitigation are established. My understanding is if properties die back, or if plants and vegetation die back, you have to replant them. And 5 years is a long time. Most of the stuff I've valued are landscaping type of ornamentals, so I suspect those probably cost more than if you were to buy cypress trees to try to reestablish, or what's it, red maple, I think, is some of the plantings. But in general, you're still probably looking at, tens of dollars per plant, and then the cost to plant them. And, as you start looking at hundreds of acres, and how many trees per acre do you want to put in, that cost will get high real quick.
Well, no, I get that. That's why I'm asking that question. Again, we're looking at these row crop lands that we know if they haven't pulled the irrigation, and we have to pull the row crops on, we have to bring it back to grade, and we've done this before. And I know it's not going to be true value because it's been a while probably since we've done one, but we know and I'm just throwing a number out there, it takes $100,000 per acre for us to return that piece of land to that. So we look at some of these row crops that, we have a 100-acre piece of property, we know what it's going to cost to bring it back. So does it actually make sense? And I think when we start looking at it as a committee, we probably should have some kind of knowledge. I'm not saying we need an exact number, but something that says, hey, this is going to cost us $5 million, or we'll use a Sanibel property. One of the row crop properties, it costs us $8 million to buy, but that $8 million is going to turn into $17 million because that's what it's going to cost for us to return it to that. Because that doesn't come out of the acquisition fund, that comes out of the management side of stuff. And then when we get into this budgeting and we look at everything we have out there, this is something we have to start looking at when we're looking at these properties, is where you're going with this tier system, that we have to start really realizing, okay, if we just have to go remove exotics, we know pretty much what a hard cost is to go put in exotics. We can do it over certain times and where it is, to where the other stuff is a little bit different. As we're and I know you guys want to vote on this, correct? You want us to move this vote into a tier system? So when we're looking at this?
Probably getting a little ahead, but I'd say yes.
No, which why I'm asking this question, because it's knowledge that we're going to have when we get into this, and why we're trying to go to this tier system, is it isn't just the purchase price, it's the downward stream to it, on top of the cost of the management plans and everything else that we have to plan into it. When we start looking at an $8 million, it could be a $20 million piece of property, which I can't believe that number is not more than $70 million, especially when we had, the other committees, when we started looking at what it would cost for us to maintain and some of the stuff that it is. So I just wanted to ask that question because it's for my own head when we start thinking about this, going to that tiered system.
Well, and Shane, I think there's also, you have to factor in how you're storing it. There's a huge difference between sable palms and cypress heads.
Oh, 100%.
So, I mean, that's
And some of it is, even if we don't restore it, it's just you clear it and let it regrow naturally. But there's a maintenance cost to that, because you're going to have to continually make sure the exotics aren't the ones that take control of the area. And
They can move all the pipes in there, the drain towers?
but when we acquire those type of properties, we require them to remove that.
You guys have to, I'm sorry, go ahead. I was going to, you got to remember too, that $70 million is going to be prior to our conservation guys working in-house too, as long as get some contract to do some more work too. So we're keeping the cost down, but our guys doing a lot of work themselves too.
Well, I understand that, but
No, I know what you're saying.
It's higher. And again, we're looking at this, and when we start talking about this, and it's not discounting the people that are behind us, because I know where they're going to come from too. But at the end of the day, I've had the conversation. I had the conversation about other stuff with the county, with every county. I mean, we're talking city of Sanibel and everything, me in real estate. The money's so tight right now that everyone's watching every single dime we have, and we have to be very careful with that, because no one wants to raise taxes. And when we start looking at this, it's going to raising taxes. And if we have to, I thought we had a little bit more money, but $19 million, if we had to go replenish $21 million, give or take, just think about what that's going to be across the board to do so. And in fact, where you're going to find it from, it's going to take from away other services. So that's why I understand why we're going to go to this tiered system, and to where we have to go what's critically important and what's going to get the most bang from the buck.
Absolutely.
Any further questions or comments for Mr. Clemens or staff? I've got a couple of cards here that have this number, something they want to speak on. We don't have on the budget, or excuse me, on the agenda, any public comment, so that would normally fall down in item 9. But what I would like to do, unless the board objects, is to open this up for public comment and see if we can get some get input from the public, even though it's not on the agenda, if you guys are in agreement, before we take any action. So let's hear from some of the folk. I'll call the ones that have the number 5 on there, this item, and then we'll see if anyone else wants to speak.
Yes, I wanted to speak on that too. Thank you.
Give me a second there, ma'am. So I'll call the folks that already have number 5 on their card, then I'll open it up for anyone else that may want to speak. So yes, ma'am, you'll get a chance. The first is Terry Kane. Please come forward and speak only on item 5, if you would, at this time. And by the way, folks, you're limited to 3 minutes. Renee will keep track of that out of courtesy for everyone. Let's keep those comments to 3 minutes.
Okay. When you say item 5, I just want to be clear.
Excuse me, ma'am. The report that we just had from Mr. Clemens, this particular item right here.
Right. Does that include the acquisition tier system as well as the acquisition status?
It is the tier system and the status that Mr. Clemens
Comment
reported
on both.
Yes, ma'am, but not any of the nominations that we're going to consider later.
Okay. Okay. Yep. All right. So I'm Terry Kane, for those of you who don't know me, and I'm from Fort Myers Beach, and I've been here a long, long, long time. The natural areas in our communities in Lee County should not be going away, meaning that we need to put our money into our natural areas, because once they're gone forever. They're not coming back. As land value softens, we're not all going to agree on this, it's time to buy. Now is the time to buy. I request that the funding for Conservation 2020 be replenished. This isn't supposed to be coming out of the budget. The 2020 has their own budget, and our millage was not supposed to be incorporated with everything else that we're trying to hold up for the county. So this should be for maintenance and land acquisition. It's well known that the voters of Lee County are very conservation-minded. Since the 50s, things have happened here in Lee County that have happened no place else, and that have been an example for the entire state. An example is the aquatic preserve system. And here, in 1996, we voted to tax ourselves. The community voted to tax themselves the millage to start Conservation 2020. And in 2016, we did it again by 84% of the vote. So think of the voters that are going to be listening to this right now, and the voters that still want acquisition on our conservation lands that we have around the county. The maps are beautiful, very pretty maps. It looks great, but unfortunately, you don't take into consideration the density and as fast as Lee County is growing in its density. So while the maps are nice and flat, the density is going up. So we need more conservation lands for more public that is coming to Lee County to live. Then as far as the ranking and the tier system goes, I think a tier system's great. We had it 20 years ago when we started, or how many years ago it was. And even if the parcel is small, I'm one of those who like the tiny parcels because I live in a place where we only have tiny land. And I think that the ranking is important if the land is contiguous. I think that is an important consideration. I'm glad to see that you're taking that into consideration. And when the little parcels are joined with the bigger parcels, wildlife is territorial, so bigger is better. We know that. So maybe you can't buy big parcels, but you can buy little parcels that are contiguous, and that's all good. And what else was I going to say here?
30 seconds.
Oh, I have 30 seconds. Well, thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you very much for your comments. The next card I have is David Minnick. Please come forward, please. State your name for the record, and you have 3 minutes, sir.
David Minnick, M-I-N-N-I-C-K.
Hold the mic a little closer to you there, if you don't mind.
Sure. Is this better?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good afternoon. It's a great presentation. Thank you. I learned a lot. This past Monday, I and some of my nature-loving friends enjoy our parks and green space, took a wet walk on the campus at FGCU on their nature trail. And while I was there, I was reminded that that university's beloved benefactor, Ben Hill Griffin, donated the 800 acres of that property that make up the campus with the provision that 400 acres of it be kept as preserve. I see the benefits of that wisdom and foresight whenever I visit that beautiful campus, a true model of the balance between development and preservation. I know that first-year students at the university are required to take University Colloquium, a sustainable future, where the values of ecology, preservation, and sustainability are taught. Opportunities abound for students to experience and enjoy the local parks and the varied ecosystems. Those recent memories are part of why I welcome the chance to speak to you all today. This committee has been charged and is fortunate to have the opportunity to see that Ben Hill Griffin's visions and the qualities of the FGCU Charter, with its emphasis on environmental sustainability, are values adopted and embraced countywide. I hope that you will use the opportunities in the days ahead to, as we are reminded daily by the local media, use the resources entrusted to you by the citizens of Lee County to purchase green resources that are here. It's my understanding that a ranking tier system has been in use over the years with great success. I hope that CLASAC will build on past successes in the years ahead. With the daily reports of real estate prices sagging for the first time in many years here, this strikes me as an optimal time to take advantage of the opportunities for additional land purchases. Citizens of Lee County have voiced their support for additional land purchases and Conservation 2020 over and over again. I hope this committee will respect and respond to this with your continued support. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for your comments. That's the only two cards that I have with item 5 specifically identified. So I'd like to ask anyone else from the audience that would care to speak, please come forward.
It was for general comment.
But please come forward, state your name, and you have 3 minutes. Are you Elise Leathers?
Alessia Leathers, yes.
You didn't write an item number. It said Conservation 2020 General, so that was going to be in item 9. But please go forward.
Okay. Don't count those seconds, please. Okay. Okay, so my name is Alessia Leathers. I've been living here for 20 years. I'm not tired of saying this again and again. What I have here is Mr. Clean. I was looking for a sponge. I couldn't find it, but then driving here, I said, that works perfectly for the analogy I want to do. What you are deciding today or every day that you make a decision is you are not only buying land, you are buying our ticket to the future. You are buying our access to water. Without water, we don't exist in 7 days, all right? That's clear. So what I have this is because every time you purchase land, wetlands mainly, what happens is that there are three mainly ecosystem services that you are helping us with, all right? One of them is to absorb the storm surge, which is saving us, the county, money, because otherwise we have a disaster like Milton, all right? So you know where the water will go in case of another hurricane, knock on wood. Second, wetlands replenish our aquifer. Our water doesn't come from rivers like in other states. Our water comes from the aquifers because we have a limestone ground, all right? So that's very clear. I live in Cape Coral, and I know we suffer because we have the northwest area have no water right now, all right? So we are in a drought, and we need to replenish those aquifers. So if you have an impervious surface, it's different than when you have a pervious surface. I know you know that, all right? A parking lot and an open land is totally different, all right? And then Mr. Clean also helped me with this analogy because also wetlands filter pollutants and toxins. So just right there are three ecological systems that you have the very important mission to decide on. I think the most important is water. Without water, we're history. And it's not when, it's where, because it's happening right now. I'm from Cape Coral, and I see I have neighbors having to take showers in the gym because they don't have water. So remember this. You're not going to buy land only. You're buying the ticket for our future if you plan to have kids or you already have kids. All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else care to speak? Sir, please come forward, state your name. Well, wait a minute, someone's beat you to the punch there. We'll get you next.
Thank you. Marcia Ellis for the record. So I did provide a handout to each of you that had the details from the CDB DGR, the Voluntary Residential Buyout Program, where we were, of course, allotted $1.1 billion following Hurricane Ian, and $750 million of that was set aside for buying out repetitive flood properties. And in basically B, it states that the buyout would be maintained for green space, recreation, floodplain, wetland management, or other disaster risk reduction.
Ms. Ellis, if I may interrupt you for just a second, please stop the clock.
Yes.
Are you going to speak on the tier program?
Yes, I am.
Or is this a general item that we can...
No, I'm speaking on the tier item. Thank you. Okay. And unfortunately, zero money was spent acquiring these lands. Zero in the repetitive flood properties were purchased through this program. That's $750 million that would have gone to opening up space in high-risk areas in this community. Zero. So I don't really think that we want to trip over a tier system that may disadvantage properties that could give us flood protection. Properties that may not be scoring that well because they're, they're coastal. So also I want to talk about the fact that the farmland parcel on the tier system offers uplands. And I think we have not as many properties that are uplands as we have wetlands. Upland properties are highly coveted for development. We also have species that are being crowded out in large areas of massive developments. Species like caracara, the panther that cannot exist just in wetland areas, and our gopher tortoises. I think it's important that we buy a variety of different types of properties, not just wetlands. Also, we'll point out with these 5-acre purchases, great, but what are the administrative costs for each of these separate small purchases versus the larger parcels? To me, there were a couple of properties that I felt like were not adequately reflected in their scores or in their tier placement. One of those properties was the corkscrew tree. I think that it has real potential for stormwater entrainment technologies that could help clean up that southerly flow from the farmlands and the residences that are near there, as well as the sand cap property, because you have 5 to 7 acres of uplands surrounded by wetlands. That could be very important for wildlife. They're trying to escape storm events, surge. It could basically be an oasis in a sea of wetland areas. So I just ask that we consider this tier system a little bit more carefully. We not act hastily, and we really take time to have nuance and true public comment so that we can hear from our public.
Thank you very much for your comments. Sir, please come forward, state your name for the record. You have 3 minutes.
My name's Max Malloy for the record. Just here speaking on behalf of the Sanibel Community Church. We're representing the sale of that property. None of them were able to be here tonight, so just had a couple clarification items. This is the 35-acre site there, just on the right as you get over the bridge on Sanibel, off of Periwinkle and Bailey Road. The owners did and have purchased mitigation credits that would allow for about 16 acres is what they were intending to disturb on that site. So I just wanted to clarify, there's 5 to 7 acres being quoted. I agree that that's probably what's there that exists, but they have those credits and we're intending to disturb about roughly 16 acres. On the management side, the folks at SCCF that were shown in that map unfortunately weren't able to be here either. They made some great points at the last meeting. I can't speak for them, but I was listening to some of the points about management and the cost of such. I think they've had an interest, at least from the beginning, on assisting the county if they were to purchase this property with management and maintenance. So from the tier perspective, maybe something to keep in mind. And then from there, just a question so I can kind of report back to them. So our site was ranked in the tier 2, and I'm curious how that would impact timing for us. Obviously all these sites, everyone wants to know an answer. I understand there's a process, but the last meeting we were approved to go to the Board of County Commissioners. So I'm curious, are we not going to be heard at that meeting? Is there kind of a timing expectation that, hey, we're going to give X amount of time to tier 1 and then tier 2 would go next, and just try to set expectations so, we're not here for a couple months and then don't really know. I guess the question I would have if we're allowed to ask questions.
Thank you. Well, not really a dialogue back and forth,
okay.
but I will ask Mr. Clemens to follow up with you on that particular
Yep,
point.
sounds great. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for that input and for that clarification. That's additional information we didn't have last month. Thank you. Sir, please come forward.
Hey everyone, my name is Nick Sweat. I was here last month for nomination 654. To your point, correct me if I'm wrong, I guess we can't have the dialogue. April 2025, this group unanimously agreed or passed to go on to the Board of County Commissioners in May, and then it got pushed off. I'm guessing because we thought this tier system was coming or for whatever the reason may be. And I'm kind of in the boat that Max is in, that what does the timeline look, we're also on the tier 2. What does that timeline look like for us as well? Having already been unanimously approved, and are we going to be the first one that is unanimously approved and is taken back from unanimously approved to not being approved? We'd just like some clarification on that, what's going on. A lot of talk about costs and money tonight. I know I touched on this last time. The contract we have with the county is about a 30% discount what market value is for the land. Someone touched on, the opportunity to buy land right now. Someone else also touched on farm fields. In our contract, it says we have to get all the irrigation out of there, level it off, and do all of that, and the sellers agreed to do all of that. I don't envy your guys' position right now. You've got a lot of properties to buy, not as much money to spend, but we just like some direction. We've got other people, in the last couple of weeks wanting to buy it. The seller really believes in this and the conservation and would like, this is where he wants it to go. If that's not going to happen, we'd like to kind of figure that out.
Thank you very much, sir. I've asked Mr. Clemens to follow up with you after the meeting, so if you would hang around just a few moments.
Yes, sir.
Would anyone else care to address the committee on item number 5, which is the acquisition status potential acquisition tier system? If so, please come forward. Seeing none, we'll close the public comment at this point. Mr. Clemens, question before we ask the committee if they have any comments or thoughts. Has the board seen this presentation at this point?
They have not.
Okay. So we're kind of fresh to this, so we're getting a chance to make some comments on it or provide the board with our input on it because, as you all know, we're an advisory committee to the board. Any comments or thoughts from the committee for anyone, please?
I just had a question. So it's the tier system, and this is what will be presented to the board. So new properties will not be considered now, or
new properties will be considered. For example, that's why I brought up that one that's in the Buckingham area on the river.
Right.
If something like that comes forward, we will continue to accept properties and score them as we always do, but they will be going into the tier system. If they're a really good parcel and y'all want to put them into tier 1, then we will put them in tier 1 or recommend putting them in tier 1 and take that to the board. If the property is similar to the demarcation that we currently have now, we kind of have native habitat, farm habitat, they'll probably go down and y'all probably recommend that they stay in tier 2. So if a good parcel comes forward, you want to forward it, then we would forward that to the board for their consideration.
You know, Ms. Knight, you're bringing up a very good point, which is somewhat similar to the one Mr. Spring made earlier to a certain point, that we should perhaps, as we start to look at these, ask the questions on what's it going to take to get that restored or get it to that point, so we can take that in consideration, because that might affect what our recommendation might be as to what tier it might fall in, and we're going to need to ask that question too. So I think those are two very, very good points that we need to keep in mind as we go forward and look at other parcels as they come before us, and hopefully staff will give us some thoughts on that and input as we get their report on items that have been tendered to them for consideration to bring forward for acquisition review. Mr. Smith.
Yes, sir, thank you. And look, I understand that I've missed some meetings. I am almost 50 with a newborn. It's wearing me out, but thank you. But it's, I don't know, what makes it seem like this is almost like a wrap-up of 2020. It seems like we're bundling a bunch of projects here. And to Christy's point, I mean, we're going to still continue to buy land. I know we've got the cash sitting there, but every time we pay our taxes, and I assume somebody's paying my taxes, but you know, that I have, if you've got a problem or not, but that we're putting more money away. So this is ongoing. Or are we just trying to catch up with some type of backlog? I mean, what did I miss?
Well, I'll try to take a shot at that based on, but Mr. Clemens could probably answer it better, and that is, we have available funds right now. We have this much funds, this many requests. How do we prioritize this many requests into the funds we have? And then those others still are there, and at some point in time when the funding is available, they can be considered.
Right, so this is a snapshot.
I think so.
Okay, all right, good. I mean,
it is, and I know we have a member of the press here. This is not a sunset of the 2020 program. This is not a termination of the 2020 program.
Charlie's sitting there.
It's just simply a way to allocate the limited resources that we have available at this time, as I understand it. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I'd say, like we said early on when we brought this up, every department in the county has had to review and prioritize its projects within the departments with the amount of financial assets they have. This is no different than that.
Great, and you know, while Charlie takes his notes, I will say that the staff at Lee County works as hard as any staff in any department in any government I've ever seen, and we do a very, very good job. And this is not our money. This is the taxpayers' money. And I think everybody on this committee and the staff is acutely aware of that. And it's not often that we vote no on things, and we do. I remember 8 years ago, there's 2 acres in some 72-hole golf course community, and some of these women were saying there's panthers and turkey and deer. And I asked the question, was that before or after hole 18 was put in? You know, so I mean but you know, this is a great committee, does a really good job for the community, and there are a lot of hard decisions to be made, so I guess, you know, like the preacher said once I get going, I don't know when to stop, but so Robert and everybody else, thank you, and you know, yeah, so thanks. I don't know, I'm just going to stop talking, but thank you.
Any other comments or thoughts?
So I want to just clarify what Robert just said, and don't throw it. There's things that we've gotten that it's been ranked at a 10, and we've moved it forward, and it's been purchased, and we've had things that have been ranked in a 40, 60, 80 range, and it has been purchased for one reason or another. So it's not like this is the end of us moving something somewhere or not. This is just allocating it to a level so we can understand it more as a committee, and then also it can be understood there. Because, again, everyone that's been around knows we passed things through that's been denied on the county level because it didn't make sense on the county level. So, I mean, I'm for it because it keeps the options open for us to be able to do what we need to do as a committee.
Thank you. I guess, Mr. Clemens, what you're looking for is, given that the board hasn't seen this, a motion from this committee that supports the ideology or the thought of the tier system to take it to the board for their review and approval as a way to rank the parcels that are before us and will come before us relative to our limited resources.
Correct.
Okay. Mr. Sund.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Sund, though.
A real quick question, and then would the idea be that moving forward on the 3 properties that we're going to discuss today, or 3 or 4 that are on the agenda, that when we would make a recommendation, we're going to say, we either don't recommend moving this forward, or either we recommend moving this forward and recommend placing it in tier, whatever that tier would be. Is that the hope or the desire with the new system in place if it was to be approved here?
I think some of these are already in there. They're in there.
I would say those properties are crew parcels, and they are in tier 1, and that's why we put this portion of the presentation first, so that as we're going forward, this will flow into those tier systems.
So I guess that example then, if I picked on 669, which I think is Bokeelia Growers, right? That's something that is, we have a nomination. We've not reviewed it yet. You guys are still in the process of scoring. Once it does come to us, the hope or desire would be that we would make a recommendation of not just to move it forward or not, but what tier.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's like a prioritization, if you will. We like it, but how, do we got to do it today? Should we wait a little bit until the people pay their tax? I got it. I like this. It's good job.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Spring, a second by Mr. Smith. Any further discussion?
I'll just add in discussion, I do appreciate walking us through and looking, I think there's always a desire that of the members of this board, but also just the community as a whole, as much as possible. I think it's really eye-opening to look at that we, at this point, have nearly a quarter of the county is in conservation status. We're moving our way to nearly a third of the county, and we're not looking to slow down. We're just trying to figure out how to get the best bang for the buck with the dollars that we have, and I think this does a great job of doing that. So thank you to staff for putting this together.
Thank you for that comment. So we have a motion, we have a second. Opposition? And that carries unanimously. Thank you guys very much. Staff, thank you very much for putting this information together. Thank the public for their input as well, because this is a very good overview, I think, of what has been accomplished with the conservation funds and the properties that have been acquired by the various agencies as part of that overall framework of conservation land. So thank you all very much. Next are our staff negotiated purchase agreements. As a caution on these, we have to record our votes on these particular items unless there's no opposition, then it'll be unanimous, of course. And as we have the presentation and ask comments back, I'd ask that you hold any motion until we take public comment, because we'll take public comment on each one of them before we take any particular action. And if you do make a motion, because our minutes keeper can't always see who does that, please state your name when you make the motion in second so we can get the record adequately. Having said all that, item number 6A is nomination 492-3, 5-acre parcel in Crew. Mr. Clemens.
This parcel is a plus or minus, I apologize. When I move my glasses, I can't see far. So it's a 5-acre tract of land, and we're acquiring it at the appraised value. The county will be responsible for paying title, policy. We already paid the appraisal. We'll be responsible for a survey and phase 1 audit if we choose to get one. The property owner will be responsible for paying to get the oil, gas, and mineral rights, the access to those removed. Again, this falls in the Crew area, and the Crew area, we have an agreement with South Florida Water Management District that they will maintain these properties for us. So staff recommends to go forward with this.
This is a tier 1 parcel?
This is a tier 1 parcel.
Thank you. So we have a recommendation from staff on this particular item to recommend purchase by the county. Any questions or comments of staff? Mr. Sun.
One question. I know this is something that keeps coming up. I think sometimes when we see these small parcels, especially that are completely surrounded by Crew or other conservation land, can staff just remind us why we purchase these, even though the likelihood of development, right, in a 5 acres in the middle of conservation land is unlikely, and why it's worth spending, if we have limited dollars, why it's worth spending, even though it's small amounts, why it's worth spending the money.
These properties are part of an overall system. There is nothing that precludes an individual from going in there and utilizing their property rights to do on those properties what they have the right to do. There are properties in the Crew area to the east that are improved. People have built houses, put trailers out there on them. They build a road network. They cause maintenance issues for us for the properties that we do own, much like the Pine Island piece. This just eliminates future issues for governmental agencies when these people come in and want to utilize their properties. Probably the best way to avoid a lawsuit is not to get in it.
Preach.
Yeah, to follow on that, we plan on restoring the hydrology out there. I mean, if we're changing that pattern on somebody's property, they could possibly, have reason to be upset with us, or to some degree that, we're changing water levels to a certain period of time throughout the year. So it's best that we have that in public ownership, especially since if we do build that Kuiper Reserve, extended that south towards, very critical that process.
Thank you. I know these crew properties come up and we see them multiple times throughout the year. That conversation doesn't always happen. So I think it's just important, if we're having a conversation about budgetary concerns, why we're taking the time to acquire.
Thank you.
I'll move the item.
Please hold that if we could till we take public comment, Mr. Smith. Would anyone in the audience care to speak on item 6A, nomination 492-3? If so, please come forward. I don't have any cards on this. Seeing no one. Mr. Smith, your motion.
I changed my mind. No, I'm kidding. I'll move the item.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Yes, second.
Oh, okay. Thank you, sir. So we have a motion and a second. Discussion? Opposition? Carries unanimously. Please record unanimous vote on that. Next item is 6B, nomination 493-3. It's another 5-acre parcel and crew. I suspect the discussion and presentation will be similar to the one preceding.
As will 494, since we didn't have any public comment, if I can combine these two, they are the same property owner.
What we'll do is 493-3, 494-3. We will ask the public to comment on both if they wish, and then we'll make a motion for, do we need to do it for each separately? I would think not, as long as our vote's unanimous, presumably.
646, I think? No?
No, 494, 3 and 4.
Okay, let me see if I may go to the public. Would anyone in the audience care to address the committee on item 6B and 6C, nomination 493-3 and 494-3? If so, please come forward. Seeing none, we'll close the public comment. We'll be happy to entertain a motion to recommend purchase to the Board of County Commissioners. Mr. Sund?
Recommend we move forward.
I'll second it, Shane Spring.
And second by Mr. Spring. We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Opposition? That carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Item 6D, nomination 573-2, another 5-acre parcel in the Crew Trust. Mr. Clemens, any presentation on this, or is it similar?
Same situation. I will point out regarding this particular parcel, it's only about 350 feet off of Bonita Grand. So this parcel is close to a physical access, and we do have it under contract at $30,000, which is the appraised value. So this is one, as you look north along Bonita Grand, there are improved sites. So that kind of, this one's close, and it kind of shows why we should buy these type of properties. So staff recommends to pursue this parcel as well.
Questions of Mr. Clemens? Seeing none, would anyone in the audience care to address nomination 573-2, 5 acres and crew near Bonita Grand Road? If so, please come forward. Seeing none, we'll close the public comment period. We'll entertain a motion for recommendation to acquire this parcel to the board. Motion by Mr. Shaw, second by Mr. Cruz. We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Opposition? That carries unanimously. Thank you. Next item is an acquisition review, a parcel of 10 acres, nomination 541-2, a 10-acre parcel in the Crew Trust. Mr. Clemens, if you could acquaint us with this parcel.
This parcel's a 10-acre tract. It's scored 79. It is, again, within the Crew boundaries. Staff recommends to go forward with this. This parcel is not in a tier system yet. This parcel came in while we were putting this information together, so to make things less complicated, kind of put it for nomination, and don't even have a position to to recommend putting it in a tier system yet. So when we get to that, I would recommend that we put it in tier 1 as we go forward.
Can we do that today as part of a motion?
Well, I'm thinking, yes, do it. Maybe I'm not real clear. It's not in the.
I know what you mean, but, okay, after Mr. Inge calls for public comment, et cetera, I intend to make a motion, add a second part of the motion, add this as a tier 1 to your flow chart or whatever it's called.
Thank you, sir. If you'll just hold that thought.
I plan on it.
Any further questions of staff on item 7A, nomination 541-2? Seeing none. I have one card. Terry Kane has indicated she'd like to speak on item 7, or maybe that's incorrect on the card, if so. Oh, okay. I'll change that. It says 7 on here. Well, my wonderful eyesight sometime too, by the way. All right. Seeing anyone in the audience care to speak on item 7A, nomination 541-2, if so, please come forward. Seeing none, we'll close the public comment. Mr. Smith.
Mr. Inge, I'd like to move this item and in the second part of a motion, recommend that this parcel be added to the tier 1 system or sheet, whatever you want to call it, to tier 1.
We have a motion by Mr. Smith. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Several seconds. Minutes keeper, did you get that? You could pick one. It could be Mr. Shaw, Bridget, Mr. Cruz,
Let's prefer
and
Bridget.
Mr. Spring.
Bridget hasn't voted today.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Opposition? That carries. Next item is item 8, staff updates. Mr. Young, you're going to tell us about the maintenance activities and related items.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Matthew Elder, County Parks and Recreation. Staff, our 2020 crew have the National Public Lands Day, September 27th. This is an annual event. It happens the fourth Saturday every September. They're going to do 4 different preserves. We'll be holding the event, and more details to come. This is a volunteer effort for the public lands, and when Emily Gear gets back into office, she'll give us one date. We'll bring it to you in our next meeting. The natural areas coordinators and ranger unit are gearing up for the berry picking season. It's back, guys. Berry picking is back, so they are in the process of making sure that there's no trespassing on the preserve picking berries. Continuing trail maintenance across the preserves and prepping for summer burns if weather permits. CLASAC Creek Preserve East Trail improvements projects to add boardwalks over low water crossing areas will be completed soon. Gulf Preserve new weather STEM station installed in conjunction with the public safety to assist in gathering wind, weather, and data during the storm event. Kath, do you remember that site that we can give?
We'll have to get it.
Yeah,
you can actually go on and see it. It's pretty cool.
They have a camera that you can just log in and you can give you all details to see people going there and taking out their canoes and all that kind of stuff. It's pretty neat. So maybe next meeting we can bring that website to them. Alva Scruggs Preserve staff spraying to control pockets of exotics. Moody River Preserve roadside fence replacement is beginning. Prairie Pines Preserve 282 acres exotic treatment completed. CLASAC Creek Preserve exotic treatment in progress. Imperial Marsh Preserve staff trail trimming and spraying to control pockets of exotics is going on. Oak Hammock Preserve, members of the public donated cypress trees and they were planted this month. West Marsh Preserve, Eagle Scout completed bench installs. Cow Slough Preserve, 24 acres in mitigation area, exotic treatment completed. Wild Turkey Strand Preserve, exotic treatment and mitigation area in progress. And the Corrustion Preserve exotic treatment is in progress. That's it.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Young? I like to hear a lot about those exotic control on a lot of acres. That's a great thing.
Y'all guys are doing a great job staying on top of it.
Thank you very much. Item 8B, committee member items. Does anyone on the committee have any items to bring up? If they do, please speak. I do have one follow-up, if I may, on the acquisition status, the tier system. I want to make sure that we all are very clear that this doesn't preclude the county from looking at, if we get a 2,000 acre item come in, it doesn't preclude the county from pursuing that. They just got to, fund it adequately and such, depending on what the price is. So just make sure that we all go away knowing that can still happen. Just want to clarify that. Public comment, item 9. I have 3 cards. Ms. Kane, would you like to speak at this time? Item 9. I'm going to get you up there one way or another. Again, that is.
Well, I just want to say thank you for letting me speak again. Thank you for letting me speak the first time. I think it's important, the work that you're doing, and we used to have a tier system years and years ago. I said that before, and I do like the tier system. I do like the ranking of the parcels, especially for the different things that can be accredited to the parcel, especially if you get things like grants for it. The staff used to write a whole lot of grants for exotic plant control, for restoring the properties. I just heard where there's going to be a community. You had a donation of trees. The community can get involved. Local communities want to get involved. They do want to restore these properties as you acquire them. So I think that all needs to be taken into consideration with the tiered system. It helps on the cost. It helps on the management cost. And because I used to be one of those people out there doing the work, I like to see a lot of money for management. I know there's not enough out there, but there's a great crew that the county crew is the best, and they do know what they're doing. You've got a lot of talented people out there as far as burning and herbiciding and trimming and arborist, and I think it's important that you use the talented people that you have on staff, and that will also keep your costs down instead of putting it out for contract. So thank you again.
Thank you very much. I have 2 more cards. Holly Schwartz, please come forward. State your name for the record, and you have 3 minutes, please.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. It's fortuitous that you viewed all of those maps earlier. Again, sorry, my name is Holly Schwartz. I'm from the Eyes on Conservation 2020 group. In the interest of sharing more information, additional information, I mean, those maps are absolutely great, but we also have a map to share, and this map is from the Conservancy of Southwest Florida. They did it, they compiled this information earlier this year in April, and this is a map showing wetland loss between 1999 and 2023. And this isn't Conservancy data, this is South Florida Water Management District data. It's essentially wetlands. The pink areas were wetlands in 1999, and they're not wetlands in 2023. This is, we understand there are mitigation considerations when properties are developed, but essentially this is a loss of wetland function in these particular areas. And prior to 1999, NOAA mapped these wetland losses. And they came up with information that stated that in Lee County, an 8.7% land cover loss, which was a bigger percentage than the national average. That includes 38 square miles of forested wetlands with all land types included. New development replaced up to 54 square miles during that study period. And that study period was prior to this. So I think it's important for us to put this into perspective. I really appreciate what this committee does. This is one of, in lots of our opinions, one of the most important jobs the county has, because we know there are lots of competing interests for the dollars that the board has to consider, but we appreciate and want to emphasize the importance of the future replenishment of this program, as it's the exact right time to purchase affordable conservation land when the prices aren't sky high, which inevitably they will be very soon. Thanks for your consideration.
Thank you very much. Last card I have is Marcia Ellis. Please come forward.
Good evening again. Marcia Ellis for the record. So when we talk about a tier system, my mind immediately flies to the priority rating system that we've had for conservation lands, like in the Dover Coal, where we had a priority rating system that was based objectively on the overall landscape, and it assigned priorities to certain parcels for acquisition. I love it. I love the Dover Coal. Fabulous piece. And so that really set the priority for acquisition. This program is owner initiated. That means the owners of property bring it forward, and then hopefully those properties will mesh up beautifully with our priority rating system, which is more objective and cast over a broad landscape. Let me also say that carrying capacity is ultimately what I think determines what happens in this county. Because have we had water quality issues, water scarcity issues, flooding, issues with overdevelopment and the fracturing of habitat at where we are today? So we have to look at how much can our land support? How much can it sustain in a healthy way to support us all? I also want to say that we are not subject to the political will. If it's popular to slash and burn budgets and cut spending, Conservation 2020 is durable. It goes back decades. It crosses generations. It is immune to what is popular right now that may not be in the best interest to reflect the will of the voters in this county. And lastly, the maintenance issue. Maintenance is an economic driver in this community, as is the study of these wild places. So if we evaluate how much money is being spent in this community to study these places, to maintain them, it contributes to our economy. It gives people jobs that they are proud to do, protecting our environment, studying our environment, and making sure that it is there for the next generation. Please take these things into consideration, because I do not believe that what you passed today is as good as it could be and as it should be for Lee County. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's the last card I have. Would anyone else care to speak to the committee before we close the public comment period? If so, please come forward. Seeing none, we'll close the public comment period. Our next meeting date and time is Wednesday, September 17th at 5:30 p.m., same place. Next item is a motion for adjournment. Who would like to tender that? Mr. Cruz. He's the only one that was anxious to get out of here. Do we have a second? Numerous seconds. Thank you very much. We're adjourned. Thanks, everyone.